What's up, YouTube? Let's do a walk around of this Cherokee that just did the entire coastline of Mexico. It was over 10,000 miles, jungle roads, desert, Baja 1000 course, highways, everything you can think of. A lot of people ask, how do I do it? What's my rig look like? What do I bring? Before I unpack all this, let me show you. Oh, just got out of the ocean for a morning swim. Literally a whale not even 50 feet from me. Mom and two cats. I'm getting bubbled around in the surf. I'll cut to the footage, but they're just cruising just off the shore right on the other side of the surf. But anyway, let's do a real quick shot of literally how I drove out of town this morning at 4 a.m. to here. And then I'll repack it kind of the way that I do, and then I'll show you that too. So like I said, I wanted to be real with you guys. This is what it looks like when I woke up and then drove about, I don't know, 3 hours of jungle road, village topes. I wanted to show this because there are checkpoints all over, and when they look in the truck and see this, they're gonna search. They're gonna be like, what the F is going on here? So it's actually a really dangerous, in my opinion, dangerous position to be driving around like this. Not only like if you flip the truck or whatever, but like it just looks like shit. And people start asking questions about it. So let me get cleaned up. Same thing with me. You look like shit too. They're gonna start asking questions. They're not gonna be very welcoming into their community. So take care of yourself, take care of your vehicle. Let me flip this vehicle and then we'll go back into, you know, how I like to roll through towns, through checkpoints, all that stuff. All right, I'm all packed up. Here, let me just give you another walk around. One very important thing is that these are labeled. And if I was smart, I would put in Spanish too, what this should be. But at pretty much every crossing that they're gonna search, they ask to open these big black boxes. I wonder why, but I'll say, point to this one and be like, cochina. And then they'll say, you know, open it. And I will, and they'll see that there's kitchen stuff in there. If they're being really diligent, they'll be like, you know, I'll point to like this one, food, right, comida. And they open it, see there's food in there. That's enough, right? Like having it organized, all the camping stuff. But like just generally, it's a really good thing to be organized. And you know, they can see that when you open it. Same thing, not more than 3 bags sitting on the seat. My sleeping platform folded up. Tied, everything's tied. The boxes are tied with the strap that goes all the way to the floor. Waters are held captive, everything's strapped. Bags are fine, stuff packed neatly on the floor. The camp sprayer, blankets, garbage. Really important to have all your garbage, you know, like just, it's a nice spot. Walmart, $5. This area here is kind of like the utility area. And, you know, I allow this to kind of be full of shit. So there's a cooler full of drinks, maybe something I just bought, some snacks, change of clothes. Seat is upright. I don't keep it folded down, even though it does fold flat. My camera bag with all my camera gear in it. And you don't see all that with the door shut, right? So it looks nice and neat when they look in. It can be messy, but it looks tidy. Big things on top to kind of like balance out your eye. On the dash, my radio doesn't even work. Kind of sucks. The phone setup, huge deal to have satellite, not satellite navigation, but satellite imagery. So when you leave town, map it on satellite and Google will cache all of the satellite imagery for the entire route, probably within reason. But as you're driving the mountain jungle roads, it's really nice to be able to look ahead, and as you're driving, see what turns are coming up. It's a huge help. Everything's accessible. Headphones, my actual satellite navigation and communicator key, drink if you're gonna have it. Again, everything. I wish that I probably would have ran a wire up through here to kind of clean that up a little bit, but just super simple, clean, tidy. Let's talk about how the sleep platform works. So again, this is the factory seat back. So this is the basic premise of the sleep platform. I think it's like 5.5 feet from the front of this to the back door, and it's totally flat. So I have 2 piano hinges on here, one here and then one here, and so they just fold up and then go back. So we talk about having multi-uses for things, so you could have like stilts on here or whatever, but these boxes fit perfectly in here. And one of my mistakes when I first made them is that I couldn't access the boxes from in the car, so that changed. So if you have to, you can pull the seat forward. So I just put 2 of these front runner boxes down, and it's pretty much perfectly flat. If you wanted it perfectly flat, there I have these boards that go under here that just hold this up a little bit. And then if you didn't want the disjoint between the other one and this one, I have a longer 48-inch board that goes across. So 4 of the front runner boxes, this folds flat. All your stuff is under the seat, and you have this totally flat compartment to sleep on. Dude, food! Rice, absolute staple. You know, pretzels, dude, you gotta have the gummies. Gotta have the gummies. I like having them back here so I'm not just pigging out. Anyway, that's the food. Tons of it, MREs, you name it. Kitchen stuff. Spray bottle. This helps. This was specifically to do the tint that I brought. I never did it. Scrubby things for doing dishes, right? Couple different style pots. So low pot, big pot, one with a lid. There's like one of those rubber bowl things. I like things that collapse down and can go flat, or that nest like this. Here's kind of like the coffee pot, and this particular stove here is made to go on these like Coleman, but I used to use this. This was my moto setup, and I normally kept it inside of here so that it wasn't cutting up anything else that was in here. Measuring cups, you know, you're gonna bring one, and if they fit inside each other, you might as well bring 2. Lighter to light them. This and this were for the grill, and the propane thing for the grill. Dude, can opener. I can't tell you how many times I went and didn't have the can opener. Wipes, dish soap, silverware, a knife. Knives in Mexico are really controversial. That's why I like to keep them inside either the camping thing or the kitchen box, because they're questionably legal. Scissors are a really good thing to have for like cutting rope and sort of stuff that the knife can't really do. What else? Cutting board, and that's pretty much it for kind of my kitchen for what I do. In Mexico, food's basically free, so you don't really need, this is kind of all just luxury stuff in my opinion. Probably could have done without a lot of this, but whatever. boxes. These boxes are really nice. They're from Front Runner. I just like how sturdy they are. They have like a big O-ring in here. They're not really waterproof because when you lean on them, you can hear the air coming in and out. So I don't think they're gonna keep water out, but I think like for a few seconds, they're definitely water resistant. So in here, again, Front Runner boxes, all four the same, so they stack really nicely. In here, RV toilet paper, because it actually degrades a lot easier. You know, like I can't stand when you go to like a monument and you look over the wall and it's just full of toilet paper. Like, come on, have a shovel, bury it, or pack it in, pack it out. And this one, because it doesn't get opened, is sort of things that get less used. So the green propane things, an inflatable mattress, my hammocks, rope. I stuffed the CB in here once my partner left, and it was just me. I didn't need it anymore. Rope. Here's a rain suit that I have. Bunch of wire. The jump box is in here. This I definitely almost needed when I will go through the ignition, but I left the lights on. When I shut the truck off, I just crawled in the back without getting out, and so without getting out, the door chime never went off. So almost needed that. One important thing is keep this charged. So probably once a week I'll just plug this in just to make sure. Also in here, so wire, I ran out and got these fuses and just chucked them in here. They probably should go in that, but the fuses were for the lights on this, the marker lights, but only one side will just randomly go out. What else? So some of these sticky wire ties. So again, where I ran the antenna wire, I just kind of stuck it on. Curtain material, that helps. The plastic trim tool, so I don't want to be busting my stuff. Again, more wire. Tie down stuff is very handy for like collecting things on the side of the road or whatever, or if you want to throw a bag on top, if you buy something, a surfboard, whatever. Just having extra ties is good. Of course, duct tape. Sticky notes. This is interesting. So sticky notes I like to use for, say, when that check engine light comes on or some stupid light on the dash. You don't want to take the whole dash apart to pull the bulb, but you just throw a sticky thing on it, and they're semi-transparent so you can still see through it, but it's not blinding you. An air tool, and one specifically that goes to a very low pressure. So this one, you know, it starts reading at like 2 psi, and then the first gradation's like 10 psi or something, like half a bar. So that's why that's in there. Heat shrink I just threw in at the last minute. Always like flashlight in every single box. I'm going to keep that out. What's in my recovery box here? So this is the heaviest one. So I used the Harbor Freight airline to make this, and so it's just a normal thing, quick disconnects on both ends, but this is worth discussing. This is the lead. So first of all, I have the kind of air thing that clips on, not screws on. I want it to clip on. And yeah, these metal things end up kind of chewing up your valve stems, but I like this because it doesn't rely on the threads. And then here I just have one of these paint regulators where and that have the air gauge on it, and the reason is because the compressor fills slow, and unlike the G-Wagon where it's got 2 valve stems on the rim, you can shut the supply off with this, read the tire pressure, and then quickly turn it back on. You don't got to unclip it, test it. So this is a good way to just, you know, it just makes life a lot easier. You can't look at the gauge while you're filling because there's a pressure drop across the stem. So you can, if you're going to say like, okay, I'm going to shut it off at say 60, and then you do all 4 tires the same and you don't really care what the pressure is, then when you shut the compressor off, then it'll read to like a normal, whatever the actual tire pressure is, but you don't want to be flicking that compressor on and off. Of course, tow strap, and I have a few more of them. Snatch block at the request of my partner because he had a winch. There's no winch on here. This Smitty built compressor right here. This thing, I love this thing. So look at the plates all bent up from it getting smashed around. And again, I put a quick disconnect on, the kind that I use in my shop, not the kind it comes with. Throw that right in the garbage. Pressure release. But this will fill multiple vehicles. I have 37s on the Excursion. It will do all 4 of these and additional vehicles. I really like this compressor. And 4-wheel parts, they were on sale for like $100, so I bought a few of them. Of course, D-rings, the receiver pin. That's pretty much it for my recovery gear. I have traction boards on the floor in here that, I mean, come on, if you air down, realistically, you're never going to use them. But they're there for like leveling or maybe somebody else who can't air down. But that's it for the boxes. So these water things I really like because they are, they're slim. They kind of fit in my little space, so this was kind of a purchase that, you know, specifically for me. They feel kind of chintzy, but they're all right. They held up kind of fine. I was worried about like the cap blowing off and it spitting water everywhere, and I didn't really get a chance to really look into it, but there's some way to shut this valve off in here. I didn't really look at it, but they're not as messy as you think they would be. The sleeping pad, man, this thing here, I didn't even have to use that inflatable mattress. This was key. This is like a military surplus that my partner grabbed last minute as an impulse. I love it. 2 sleeping bags. I don't know, I'm a wuss. I hate the cold. I hate the cold. One of these really versatile climbing blankets, and this helps. Like, it could be a pillow, it could be a thing, you could like take it out and ball it up. It's super light if it's hot out. I really like these tiny little shovels. It's kind of a compromise, obviously, right? Like, you want to carry a full-size shovel, go ahead. To me, I know how to drive. I know what I can get over and what I can't, what I'm likely to get stuck on. So these things, like $10. I like the fiberglass ones, but if you're going to leave them on the outside, go with wood, because this, if you go and touch this after the coating is gone, it's just going to be all like slivers in your hand. I personally think these are big enough to dig a vehicle out. It's not ideal, but that's what it is. Again, here's some shit that's just stuffed in. Like, you see me constantly organizing, constantly organizing. Little tiny dustpan. You know, it helps to get stuff off the floorboards, keep it accessible. Looking at the package, I got it from like Bass Pro or something like that. Cheap. In here is this isn't just specifically for this vehicle, I kind of had this packed. This is a Walmart fishing bag, and it comes with these plastic things we'll go over. In the top really accessible are things that I would need, so like zip ties. This is a wire loom that I just threw in, the body plug things that I took out when I took all the interior out of this. I had some leftover ones. I think they go in the door, I don't even know, I just chucked them in. Inside this thing, okay, so the wiring things are accessible because the transfer pump is not wired to a switch, so I literally just wired it to the battery when I wanted to use it and cut the wire when I was done. And again, that was just pressure to keep moving at the time rather than stick with it. I have a full wiring kit in here, so like all of the things like butt splice, right, your blade and whatever these things are called, the eye for catching grounds. I have heavy copper ones in here for redoing winch wires or main lines on here. Literally the day before we left, the ignition just self-destructed, so I have extra switches of various sizes and kinds, fuses, bulbs. You know, again, I went out and bought a bunch of the fuses that I knew I would need. And do not forget a real set of crimpers and a real set of strippers. This is more for the excursion, but it's all kind of like the airline stuff. And then for this truck, yeah, the vents, I use those brass crimp connections. I have the ends for the quick disconnects. I've got various adapters, the inserts, which always seem to go missing for plastic line, Teflon tape. I've got an extra pressure switch for the compressor, not this one, but for the excursion compressor. Extra end for the compressor, just whatever, airline, fuel line. I don't have any brake line stuff in there, I probably should. One full of tire stuff. So it's kind of like, you know, like get the T-handle ones. There's nothing worse than trying to use like the screwdriver handle. The T-handle ones are good, but these, watch out because the cheap ones end up snapping on you. I buy the tube patch kits literally just for the rubber cement. Like, yeah, it'll hold without it, but if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it right. So I have like 3 tubes of those. Again, for the excursion and really kind of trying to rock crawl, I've got a ton of the tire plugs. O-rings came out of an AC kit. Cotter pins, Zerg fittings for the grease, a ton of baling wire, so you can use slime, baling wire, and tire plugs to basically continue your wheeling trip, even if you've got a massive gash in your tire. This is cool, a single-use tube of grease. Probably could have used that on the front drive shaft. It started squeaking on the trip. Tire caps, right? We were talking about the clip mangling the threads on the valve stems. So here is a rethreading tool, both inside and out, along with the valve core tool. Gasket maker, JB Weld. It's kind of all in here. And then of course, flashlights readily accessible, but then here is bolts. So you only need one set. Get metric, forget about SAE. I don't know if there is room in here, but this is kind of heavy. So nuts, bolts, M6, which is pretty much like a standard thing on this vehicle. So I got a ton of those, ton of nuts. These silicone trays are really, really nice because when you're in the sand, you have some place to put your tools and bolts and things. make sure you have this stuff. Full set of wrenches, full set of sockets, deep socket, shallow socket. I think this kit's pretty nice. Again, some of the smaller stuff. Right, Torx bits, 12 points, normal screwdriver stuff. This kit's pretty good. And I probably will never use it. It just sits way up here, tucked away. Alright, so this is the factory seat back that I wanted it to go up even with my sleep platform. So this ties up. Well, I really wanted to make sure that I could get in here and deal with this. So this is definitely stuff that almost never gets used, but some of it's accessible. Like with this down, it comes up to this, so it's I can get the pump sprayer out, I could get the camp chair out, I could get to these blankets. This is just sitting here. This is a complete bed set, so bedspread and sheet, which probably don't need both, but it came in the bag and I just left it there. But in here is kind of where I have my tool rolls and some of the stuff. So duct tape, I just toss these Velcro things in my tool roll. This is sort of like a thing. Let's open that up. I have extra butane for the soldering thing, and we did this because there was a bunch of wiring on my partner's vehicle that wasn't done. I've got 2 big things of zip ties, torque wrench, pry bar, little peony hammer, a bunch of these crazy stupid bits, and I'm so glad I had these because when the ignition fell apart, it has these stupid security things on there. Crowbar. I personally love these. This is like a just Harbor Freight pivoting breaker bar, but with the ratchet on it. These are amazing, but you have to weld the pins in, otherwise they keep coming out. Super annoying. But yeah, all that stuff. Voltmeter. This I have like a scraper for doing the oil pan gasket, which I never even bothered with. It wasn't leaking enough to really do anything. Vice grips, pliers, big adjustable screwdrivers. In here, more baling wire, all of the stuff to do the tires. So I have the socket that fits the spline wrench for doing the tires. Pretty much accessible. More JB Weld in there. Zip ties. Needle file set. I can't tell you how many times I've been on a trail and someone's like, hey, do you have a file? It's like, no, but now I do. That stuff kind of lives in there. I keep it rolled up and sort of under the seat here. Gets hot, so on the seat is some duct tape residue. I need to get that off. Let's check out. Oh, this is a tent, a Blue Ridge tent. So it's a hammock tent or a ground tent with a screen, like a bug screen on it. WD-40, I make sure that it's accessible. I want it right here, which when the seat's down, you can get it in and out. Silences all the squeaks in the suspension, even if it's temporarily. Every morning I'd go through and just go through and spray things. Coming over to this side, we got 2 more snatch straps, and 3 because when you're towing, it's easier to tow with a longer strap. There's more spring in it. More gloves. I can't tell you how nice it is to have a huge camp mirror. Again, the hose that goes from the green bottle to the big tank. Gloves, if you're gonna do something crazy like have to get into changing a gasket or something, like it's really nice to not get pulled over and have black fingernails. Like, again, no, it doesn't really matter, but I can't tell you how much being clean goes a long way when you're getting pulled over. extra straps, a funnel, right? Not only for the big stuff, but the tiny stuff too. Tiny little funnel fits in, doesn't take any more room. More tie downs, rope, the recovery point for the rear end, the life straw thing, a hatchet for when you're camping, splitting wood. I mean, yeah, they have little ones, but nothing beats a real hatchet. And again, this needs to be out of reach. If they find this and want to hassle you, this is a weapon. So it's up to you on whether or not you want to take it into Mexico if that's where you're going. Tape measure, I think that was in there. The jack. This is the factory jack that came with the vehicle. And I didn't bother bringing the whole NASCAR spin wrench thing. I did use this to assess my front drive shaft. Just stack rocks to get it close and then spin the thing to get it up. So no hydraulic oil to leak everywhere. I really like these. I wish that I would have made a tool to go in here for the ratchet. That's the only thing on that I wish that I would have had. It would have saved me a bunch of time. I just did it with the wrench. It took forever, but it got done. And sometimes that's the name of the game, you know, like if you don't want to have shit bolted all over the side of your truck, you're just going to have to realize that certain things are going to take longer. And that's kind of across the board with tools. So on the floor over here is, again, just some extra moving blankets. This really is nice for silencing rattles. It's just kind of a utility thing. A camp chair. Floor mats, again, this is like something that we talked about when I did the overview when we were on the beach. Just having big dark surfaces, sort of like it's appeasing to the eye. I mean, look how much better that looks than this. I mean, it's just this horrific cacophony of yellow and like it's just confusing to the eye. It begs to be hassled. So yeah, it's covered. These are like little mini traction boards from, believe it or not, Walmart was selling these. I don't think that you're ever gonna break them. Again, I don't even foresee myself using them, but maybe I was thinking for like leveling at camp or something like that. I never used them. They don't really take up any critical space, so that's kind of where they live. I don't even know. Oh, cold weather gear. So for me, again, I'm a wuss. So hat and gloves, accessible. Totally forgot about it because the whole second half of my trip was hot, more so than cold, but the first half we were using these every night. All right, that video was probably about as excruciating as this climb is. If you're still with me, congratulations. Those types of videos are super boring for me to make. That's what, you know, you could tell by the lack of enthusiasm. But they're requested because there's just so much information. There's really no way to kind of jazz that up, and that's why nobody really does them. But for me, I like watching videos like that, especially when I'm planning to get out on a trip like that. Just what's new, these crazy ideas like that pump sprayer as the shower. I mean, it's just like, you know, they sell those, but they're like in a bag, a black bag that you put on the roof. Like, you know, on a 3-week trip, that's not going to last. It's going to get punctured, especially being full of water, getting bounced around. So those types of things, that's real. People use those. I didn't see that on Instagram. I saw it at an off-road show, and I'm like, yo, what's this? You know, and sparked up a conversation, and it's like, boom, ordered one instantly. They're expensive for what they are, but dude, that thing's gonna last forever. You know, just those types of things. So I'm definitely not gonna be like everybody else and try and make a video specifically about that. It's just not gonna happen with me. But anyway, yeah, thank you for staying with it. I hope that video helps. I'm not gonna say I'm one of the few people, but I like to think that I'm pretty open about things, and you know, like for example, these sunglasses that you see around, these are $2 sunglasses from Home Depot or Harbor Freight, or you can get them on Amazon. They're for their construction, they're 3M. They're not gonna stop a BB like they show on the commercials, or like Oakley's probably would, but I have stacks and stacks of these. I've got tinted ones for the daytime, and then I have clear ones for at night for doing this, being on my bike, maybe the moped. I'm certainly probably not going to trust like 40-50 miles an hour on a motorcycle with them, but you could get 50 pairs of them for what you could, you know, what you're going to pay for a set of Oakleys. And like, yeah, Oakleys are better, but do you need that? Like, that's up to you. I feel like the internet's full of sponsorships like that. Tires is another one, BFG, all this stuff. Like, hey, if you hit a rock at 70 miles an hour and it's sharp like these desert rocks are, like, I don't care what tire you have, it's going to get sliced. So learn how to drive, kind of plan for it, learn how to stitch up a tire, right? Like, think about it. If you're rock crawling, what do you got in there? 10 psi. So say you stitch it up with baling wire and fill it with slime. Again, oh, don't do it, it's gonna rust your rim. Like, hey, it's gonna get me home. And so what? It leaks. Like, get out your compressor, air it up. What? Once every hour, once every 15 minutes? Like, rather than carrying 2 spares. Like, so for me, those are the little pieces of information that are really, really, really hard to come by on the internet, especially YouTube. Everybody's trying to sell you something. Everybody's trying to be sponsored. Like, I've been doing this my whole life, so those are the types of things that I kind of feel like I have to offer. But don't get me wrong, like, there's a use for paying money. Like, these gloves were like $30 or $40, but they have like these awesome sort of palm and finger pads, and the handlebar for the bike rests right in there. It takes so much of the effort off of like the little chopping things. You almost don't even need your thumb. It's amazing. Check this out. So I'm on this trail, like, here's somebody's chain, right? And when, this is another thing I love to do, I look at things that fail. Like, look at this link that failed in tension. This chain blew apart. Like, oh, is this an Amazon chain? Maybe it's a copy of a SRAM, but it says right on there SRAM. So like, hey, failure point. Someone bashed it on a rock, probably bent the link, and then pulled on it too hard. Spend money on good stuff, or maybe get a chain guard, swap your chain. This bike, it's a nice Cannondale bike. These shoes, same thing. Like, I don't mind spending money, that's not my point, but put it where it counts. Anyway, I hope that helps. I'm going to wrap this video up here. It's so long, it's excruciating. I know. Thank you for staying with me. Check out our channel. There's other videos I'll keep uploading more and more. Working on the website, working on getting more of this information and content throughout all of the various Instagram and Facebook, and it's not my thing, but I'll try and keep up on it. Anyway, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go finish climbing this trail and blow down it as fast as I can.